बेटा कौन नहीं गलती करता, सारे ही करते हैं आप बेटा, मगर गलती करके जे सिखांगे उदी बख्शिश ही बख्शिश है बेटा, कोई भी इत्थे परफेक्ट नहीं गा।
Discover how past lives, dreams, and soul travel can help you step out of the crowd and master your spiritual destiny. By looking within, you can explore your dreams, past and present relationships, and gain valuable insights to improve the quality of your life every day. If you would like to discover spiritual truth through past lives, dreams, and soul travel, then call 1-800-LOVE-GOD and receive your free copy of Eckankar, Ancient Wisdom for Today. 1-800-LOVE-GOD.
But there are rules. They are right down there. Either in black.
They're selling me, yeah, but you create all thoughts and feelings and concepts. No one's lane forces you to adopt these viewpoints. Well, karma is exactly as the erg of energy. Whichever way you direct this erg, one erg going this way will produce an effect going this way. Everything is exact. It's just absolutely exact. Where you're born, who you're born to, the country you're born in, what you're told, the impressions you get. All of it. How you look, how you don't look, how you feel, your state of consciousness. There's no room for chance, happenstance, or bad luck of the draw. If there were, doesn't that mean then that the Lord God is not aware of everything that's going on in his universal body? Well, of course it does. If there's such a thing as chance or, geez, it just happened to me, I didn't deserve it, but it happened. Well, then the Lord does not have control of its universal body, and your own Atma in your own microcosm, is not aware of what is happening in your world. That means that cause and effect rules most of the time, but here and there it gets tweaked and there's a clog. And no. Just this right here tells you almost everything.
Karma's a bitch. Queen of Karma.
Hello, everyone, and how are you all doing tonight? I hope that you are all having a fabulous, amazing, wonderful night. I don't know why my internet seems to be deciding to act up. I apologize. I felt like it was messing up a little bit. Anyway, hopefully we are good to go now. Tonight I wanted to talk to everybody about stolen religions, New Age spirituality. Where does it come from? Why am I talking about these weird things lately? What is going on? And so I thought we would do that together. Let's talk about Radha-Swami and Saint Matt. And I know what you're thinking. Queen, that sounds really boring. I promise it will not be boring. We have a lot to talk about right now. This is me, back when I thought that New Age spirituality was the religion I wanted to be a part of, and Teal Swan was really super cool. Probably 2016. You don't know this, Beth, because shortly after, I joined It Works. And you tend to only hear about that version of me. But this is me doing It Works in 2017 out of my hippie stage and in my hustle culture stage. This is a disgusting post I made, but I keep this up to show you that I was once a MLM hun myself. Unlike these cult leaders, I do not rewrite my history, nor do I hide who I am. Teal Swan is kind of hot. And in 2016, she was very, very popular. Everybody was following her for her advice. It was a big thing, and I fell for it. On October 11th of 2019, I uploaded my first YouTube video entitled r/anti-MLM video number 1, followed by r/anti-MLM video number 2 the next day. Those have since been deleted because they were very bad. I was talking to you with a black screen for the in-between the slides that I was showing you. They were awful. However, my third video, entitled r/anti-MLM video number 3, I mean, how original, is still present. And as you can see, it was posted October 13th, 2019. And you'll often hear me laugh about how this was actually Thanksgiving weekend, and I was cooking dinner for my family and editing videos for YouTube because I thought that I would just put everything on my plate that weekend. That would be quite fun. But it worked out. When I started my channel, I went on a mission to peeling back the layers of my own spiritual journey and multi-level marketing path. I felt as if New Age spirituality led me to MLMs, especially since I began in a health and wellness MLM, and I wanted to explore that concept more. I took to covering pseudoscience and cults, starting a series named that in 2021. So you can see this is it here. And as you can see right here, on the 7th of February 2021, I covered Scientology as one of the cults in this series. This actually is what led me to Eckankar, which eventually led me to St. Matt, and the rest is history. A lot of New Age spirituality didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's a remix of ancient Indian mysticism. St. Matt and Radhaswami laid the groundwork, and movements like Eckankar and MasterPath borrowed those teachings, rebranded them, and helped spread them in the West. St. Matt, Path of the Saints, is a mystical tradition rooted in Indian spirituality. It started in the 16th and 17th century. In the late 20th century, Western seekers encountered St. Matt through figures like Julian Johnson, whose book, The Path of the Masters, introduced these ideas to a broader audience. This is what many say started what we know today as the New Age spiritual movement. St. Matt emphasizes inner light and sound meditation, and they do this through something called Surat Shabd Yoga. A living master, which they call the Satguru, as essential for spiritual guidance. Vegetarianism, moral living, and daily meditation. Self-realization leading to God realization. And I know if you've been watching my Eckankar stuff, you're thinking, this sounds kind of familiar, Queen. This is very familiar. Here is a post I found that was recently, not that long ago, just a couple years ago, posted online, that is discussing the Surat Shabd Yoga benefits. Talks about how it's the true spiritual yoga, how you can do it anytime, anywhere, how it's the complete master yoga, and the only one that can take them to their true home. And the yoga begins directly at the topmost chakra, and it tends to be very much about your third eye, that chakra. This is another one talking about the yoga meditation, which is often how they do their version of singing the Hugh song. So Radhaswami is actually a branch of St. Matt, founded in the 19th century by Shiv Dayal Singh in Agra. The name means soul, Radha, and Lord, Swami, symbolizing the soul's union with the divine. That's how they put it. These teachings focus on the Shabd, the divine sound current, accessible through meditation at the third eye center, and stress that the true spiritual path is universal and timeless. I think this is not the yoga they offer at the YMCA. Well, it might be. Eckankar, founded by Paul Twitchell in 1965, claims to teach soul travel and contact with the Ek, or divine spirit. Twitchell adapted terms like hue, a sacred sound, and soul travel from St. Matt and Radhaswami teachings, particularly from Julian Johnson and Kirpal Singh. We believe that Rabazar Tars, pictured here, was a mixture of Johnson and Singh. This is not the yoga you've been looking for. No, it's not. Scholars have documented extensive plagiarism and fabrication in Twitchell's writings, especially from Radhaswami texts, one of them being David C. Lane, who I have read all the works of. He outlines every piece of plagiarism, and I have included a lot of his work in my own work on Eckankar as a starting point. For those that don't know, I have been working on a book about Eckankar and proving it's a cult and connecting that to some other things that we are discussing on my channel as we go. So this is part of that here. The section Paul's plagiarism is obviously where I go into Paul Twitchell and the plagiarism, and a lot of this I had to obviously piggyback off of David C. Lane, and then I go further to, really kind of pound it in there that Harold Klimp is also rewriting a lot of it as well. I also recently posted on Dehek.com an article about Eckankar Unmasked, How Soul Travel, Secret Masters, and False Lineage Built a Spiritual Control Cult. Eckankar, founded in 1965 by Paul Twitchell, presents itself as a modern rediscovery of an ancient spiritual science known as soul travel. Followers are taught to connect with divine light and sound through spiritual exercises, dreams, and encounters with mysterious Eckmasters. According to the Eckankar's glossy facade of spiritual enlightenment lies a disturbing pattern of plagiarism, fabricated lineages, and cultic control tactics. A New Age facade, Twitchell's hidden past. Born in 19, it's supposed to be 1909. I think it's supposed to be 1909, I think. In Kentucky, Twitchell lived a life filled with contradictions and reinvention. David Lane alleges that Twitchell lied about the date of his birth and about having a first wife. He claimed he was only married once, but Gail was his second marriage. He served in the U.S. Navy, attended several colleges without completing a degree, and spent years exploring metaphysical and esoteric traditions. Before creating Eckankar, Twitchell was involved with several spiritual movements, including Theosophy, Self-Realization Fellowship, funnily enough, right? And most notably, Scientology. Under the mentorship of L. Ron Hubbard, Twitchell absorbed key organizational and doctrinal elements that would later shape Eckankar. It is said that Twitchell worked his way up to clear. He is one of the very few people that have allegedly done that. Not many people have, I guess. Just saying. He was also a devoted reader of Eastern mysticism, particularly the Radha Swami tradition, from which he borrowed liberally, often without attribution. Twitchell claimed to receive teachings from an ancient spiritual master. His life was marked by self-aggrandizement and the construction of a mythology that elevated him to the role of living Eckmaster, a divine messenger on earth. Borrowed beliefs and fabricated masters. Paul Twitchell built Eckankar on the borrowed and often stolen teachings of Saint Mat, a tradition rooted in the Radha Swami movement of India. Scholar David C. Lane has extensively documented how Twitchell appropriated entire passages and concepts from Radha Swami texts without credit. Perhaps the most revealing part of Lane's research is that several supposed ancient Eckmasters, including the pivotal figure Rabazar Tars, were entirely fictional creations or inspired by real Indian gurus rebranded for Twitchell's new movement. The Eckmasters are spiritual leaders within Eckankar who allegedly emphasize spiritual liberation through the teachings of the Ek, the Holy Spirit. They also refer to these spiritual leaders as the Mahanta. What does Eckankar believe? Eckankar teaches that the soul is eternal and can achieve self-realization and God-realization through direct experience of divine light and sound. These experiences are accessed through a spiritual exercise known as soul travel, a form of out-of-body experience. Followers chant the word Hu as a sacred sound to connect with what they call the Ek, or divine spirit. The current spiritual leader of Eckankar, known as Living Eckmaster, is seen as the highest authority and a direct link to the divine. This hierarchical devotion creates a clear power structure and dependency on leadership that critics argue is cult-like, me being one of them, the forgotten Eckmaster. When Paul Twitchell passed away in 1971, it created a conspiracy theory within the group. Many thought he was murdered and that the newest Eckmaster was the main suspect. On October 22, 1971, Sri Darwin Gross was appointed as the new Mahanta, the living Eckmaster. It didn't help stop the rumors when only months later, Gross married Gail, Twitchell's widow. Gross trained Harold Klemp on how to be a living Eckmaster, and some say that shortly after this, Gross was kicked out of the organization. You will not see Darwin Gross listed on any official Eckankar materials as having been an Eckmaster. He has been erased from their history, and nobody is allowed to speak about what happened. Financial exploitation and membership fees. Eckankar charges annual membership fees, currently suggested at $75 under the guise of donate what you can. Members are encouraged to renew every year, purchase discourses, and engage in increasingly secretive spiritual practices. This mirrors Scientology's model of extracting money in exchange for spiritual progress. There is no way to sign up to Eckankar without donating at least $5. And since Eckankar is considered a nonprofit organization, one must wonder who all these donations are for. A springboard for other cults. One of the most striking examples is John Roger Hinkins, founder of the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness, Messiah, in 1968. Hinkins was directly involved with Eckankar in 1967, serving as a convener. Initially, he claimed that Rabazar Tars appeared to him, but later changed the story after seeing a photo of Swan Singh. Messiah, like Eckankar, has been accused of authoritarian control, manipulation, suppressing dissent, and even sexual coercion. Why Eckankar remains dangerous. Eckankar appeals to seekers from all faiths, promising universal truths and mystical experiences that transcend religion. However, its teachings contradict many traditional doctrines and isolate followers from critical thinking. Its recruitment methods often target vulnerable individuals in crisis, just look at where their centers are, offering a spiritual escape while ensnaring them in a belief system based on deception. The cult has an unbroken line of Eckmasters. with 973 living Eckmasters reported to date, guiding followers in their spiritual journeys or to the path of total control. I guess that's up for you to decide. I mean, that is less than an actual annual Queen of Karma YouTube membership, just saying. Allegedly, if you get a hold of them, you might be able to get in for free, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Seems like you do have to donate to join, though, at least something. Speaking of the plagiarism, though, I do just want to show the other side of that, because I did find this article on Temples of Wisdom that was talking about Eckankar and Paul Twitchell and Reb Zartars, you know, the whole thing. And it just said some things that I think are important to share here. It says one final issue needs to be addressed concerning Twitchell, which is the criticism of his plagiarism. In South Asian culture, which clearly had a big influence on Twitchell and Eckankar, plagiarism is very common and often accepted rather than criticized. Scholars of Indian research and literature know that plagiarism is common. Even the former president of India, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to butcher this, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, who stole parts of a student's thesis and published them under his own name after settling with his accuser in a long court battle, retained his status as a revered scholar and leader. The justification sometimes heard is that all ideas come from the source of everything, Brahman or God, and therefore no one can claim ownership of any text or portion of a text. In this context, applying Western standards to Indian thinkers is not appropriate, which sets up a deep conflict between Indian and Western scholars, which has no easy resolution. Perhaps critics of Twitchell's plagiarism will be more understanding when they come to see it in an Indian cultural context. So that's just something to keep in mind. Keep it in mind, you know. It's important to listen to what they have to say about that as well. What all sides have to say. And my argument is not only that it's plagiarized. My argument is that it's plagiarized and then they butchered it and are using it for no good. You know, they're using it to grift. They're using it for control and praise. And it's for not good things. When I don't think that these religions in India are necessarily bad. I'm sure that, like all religions, there might be bad groups within them, but I don't feel like there's a larger amount than is Christianity. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, this is kind of like an Indian version of Christianity, where it is a very big belief there. And there's all different kinds of sects of this too, by the way. Like, there's a few different versions of this there. Just like Christianity, you know what I'm saying? And like within those groups, like with any big group, there's going to be culty issues. My issue is that the people here in our Western society that then take these belief systems from there and bring them here are doing it not because they had a nice spiritual experience with that religion, and so now they want to share it with people in their country. Like that, it's not coming from that place. It's coming from, I could write about this, make a bunch of money, not pay taxes, control groups of people, and get a bunch of praise. That sounds like a really fun thing to do. Let's start a cult. And that's not cool. Don't be doing that. And that's what I feel like Eckankar was built on. That's what Scientology was built on. That's what MasterPath is built on. We got to take a moment and we got to talk about this one as well. Hello, Mike. It's so nice to see you here. All these gurus are scammers. There is no line of teachers that go back anywhere. It is just a grift. Yes. And especially when, like I said, they're taking these, like those Indian religions that believe in these long lineages, it makes more sense for them to believe in that, to me, though, than it does for these westernized versions. Because they're like, oh, I'm the special guru. And I'm like, you're a white guy in the US. I highly doubt that one of these living masters would have shown themselves to you. You're not the one they would have picked, right? You get what I'm saying? So it's like they know exactly what they're doing. And I feel like Paul Twitchell, just like L. Ron Hubbard, very much knew what he was doing in creating Eckankar. And equally, this asshole here, Gary Olson, who I am pissed with right now, and we'll get into it, who based his, so we have Eckankar that plagiarized off of Saint Matt and Radhaswami, right? And now you guys kind of understand more about those religions. We've kind of touched on it in the past, but not fully. So hopefully after this, you kind of get the whole thing. You know, this is like the missing pieces. And now we have MasterPath. And MasterPath, founded by Gary Olson, is an offshoot of Eckankar. So he plagiarized off of Eckankar. Right? They all are, right? And that's the thing. This is where they came from. So Olson was once a follower of Twitchell, and he incorporated many of the same concepts: inner sound, light, and then the need for this living master. Now, he did all this in his own teachings, but it's kind of funny how he had to go about doing it. So both Eckankar and MasterPath rebranded Saratshab Yoga as Soul Travel. They repackaged Hugh as Sacred Sound and Saint Matt as their central mantra. They adopted the Living Master model without acknowledging its Saint Matt roots. They kind of made it more authoritarian. And then they used mystical terminology and cosmology directly lifted from the Radhaswami literature, especially that literature. You know? Step right up and get self-realized, that's right. And then you can get God realized. That's the real goal, ain't it? He looks like all those MLM guys with more hair. I wonder how much money we're talking about. And the funny thing is, MLMs and Amway is also based off of Scientology. Scientology is like the business part of these types of religions. You have to buy in order to move up to the next level part. It all came from Scientology. And Amway went, we can use that to make some real money, though, outside of religion. Let's do that. And then that's how we got MLMs. So you see, I've been peeling back the layers, like I said. And this is where it brought me. And I went, holy fuck, what the hell is all this? And as I'm doing it, things like Little Bosses Everywhere are coming out. And, you know, other people are starting to speak out about religions that are similar to this, like Mike here. And all of them loosely kind of connected in this. Like I said, this is kind of where New Age spirituality pulls off of. And then they're also very connected with MLMs, which is kind of what got me there. Like I said, it's crazy. It always does. You always have to read the next books, go to the next conference. It's very MLM-y all of a sudden. And you're like, wait, did I join a religion, a spirituality movement, or did I join an MLM company? And it's very strange how much the pyramid has to do with all of this. You know? I just find it fascinating. So, they basically took St. Matt, rebranded a bunch of stuff, changed a bunch of stuff to make it their own version, right? This is their God worlds. Alrighty? Now, the issue isn't just the influence. It's uncredited appropriation. Twitchell and Olson presented these ancient teachings as novel revelations, obscuring their origins and often fictionalizing their spiritual lineage. And there is a part in my book about the totalitarian ego and how doing that plays into that. And that is the type of personality you need if you want to be the leader of a cult. It is who you want to be. So as you can see, I've been covering Eckankar since August of 2022. So I came around it in between late 2021 and mid 2022. Researched it probably for a few months before I brought it to you guys like I usually do. And so in August, I did my very first Eckankar cult discussion video where I kind of showed you guys some of the stuff I had first come across when looking into it. And then after that, we actually read through almost all of Harold Klempe's books. I did dramatic readings of several of them, and we kind of reacted to them while we were reading through them, which was great fun. We had a lot of fun doing that. So we have dove into Eckankar as far as you can dive into Eckankar, okay? I have also read The Tiger's Fang by Paul Twitchell, the Ekvidya, an introduction to Eckankar by Paul Twitchell in order to get a better understanding of this cult. It started with The Tiger's Fang. So it was very important that I read that and understand that. And we've talked about it as much as we can talk about it. I feel like a lot of it is just like Harold Klempe rewrote it. And we've talked about that a lot too. Right now, I am reading The Soul's Divine Journey. Yes, I am. I am reading it. Okay? And let me tell you something. I have a beef with this book right now. Listen, Gary, I am on page 99 out of 137, okay? I have read, I have highlighted, I have notes all over this thing. Most of them are like, Gary, what the hell are you doing? Because this book is like him trying to convince me that his religion is the true religion. I've even written and done the planes. I've written Eckankar's in there. All right, I've gone to town on this book. But is it ever a frustrating read when this is supposed to be like their Bible? This is the 2018 edition. So I got the newest one. Okay, the newest one. And it's like, I know that David C. Lane brought up that Gary might be plagiarizing and it's not cool. And I feel like this was like a response to that. It's driving me insane. But I'm at the part where they're doing a question answer session. I don't know who asked them these questions. It's like Ash Mufara questions. Like the questions are like, I have difficulty giving my trust because I feel that other spiritual teachers have exploited me. And I'm very wary about opening up again. Can you shed some light on this dilemma? So you went to another spiritual teacher to ask them about that? That probably wasn't a good idea. You know, like it's we'll talk about it as we go. All right. But it's driving me insane. And that's what I wanted to say about that. Okay. It's absolutely bonkers. So I'm reading this. And boy, has it been frustrating. David C. Lane said about this, Gary Olson, the founder of MasterPath, admits that he was a one-time member of Eckankar, but boldly alleges he is a born saint and therefore didn't need any human guru. And that's because David Lane was like, if you were in Eckankar, then you would have had Paul Twitchell as your living Eckmaster. He would have been your guru. What are you doing, Gary? Why are you pretending that you're a living master now out of nowhere? And that was kind of like his response to that, is that he doesn't need any human guru. He was a born saint. Very few disciples of Gary Olson, the founder of MasterPath, know that he plagiarized some of his books in order to make money, and that he was for a long time a chain smoker of marijuana. This kind of stuff is not in their brochures, so only those on the inner circle get access to the very humanness of these various gurus, because they're all just humans. Right? Right? He's Sri Gary and I'm Sri Mukunda. They're all Sris. So I have been keeping track as I've been reading this MasterPath book, as I kind of showed you, of basically all of the belief systems that I can and what's stolen, what's not stolen between Radhaswami, St. Matt, Eckankar, and then MasterPath. Just for fun, you know. So the cosmic structure. St. Matt offers a detailed hierarchical I can never say this word. Hierarchical map of spiritual regions, each with its own ruling power and sensory markers. Eckankar simplifies and renames these regions, often blending them with Western esoteric ideas. The soul plane, Sugmud, is the ultimate goal. MasterPath mimics Eckankar's structure, but adds psychological framing, example astral mind versus superconscious mind, and positions Gary Olson as the soul gateway, and the whole time the book is gaslighting you. The whole time this damn book is gaslighting you. It's like, you can only do this versus the Eckmaster, but the answers are all inside you. You can only find them on your own, within yourself, but you can also only find them via Gary Olson. Just the whole time. And you're like, okay, which one is it? Why do you keep gaslighting me? Terminology and symbolism. St. Matt uses traditional Sanskrit names and metaphors, like Venus, thunder, red sun. Eckankar replaces these with invented terms, like mana, Eckankar. They just decided Eck. And introduces the blue star as a guiding symbol. MasterPath uses vague metaphysical language and blends St. Matt's terms with modern psychological jargon. So what was borrowed? As I've already kind of stated, Eckankar lifted the entire cosmological framework from Radhaswami, including the concept of inner sounded light, the hue chant, and the idea of ascending through subtle planes. Then MasterPath copied Eckankar's reinterpretation, added its own branding, and intensified the guru-centric model. So if you are going through Eckankar with me and you're like, oh wow, this Eckankar thing really is a cult, you're really going to think MasterPath is a cult. So, this damn book and Gary Olson. Who is this man? Is it a cult? Well, you know, luckily for us, I also just published an article about Gary Olson and the MasterPath, the cult of divine ego. Soul's Divine Journey, MasterPath, the Light and Sound Teachings, which is the name of this book that I'm reading, reads like a cosmic fever dream, equal parts spiritual seduction and psychological entrapment, just the whole time. Gary Olson doesn't just ask you to follow him, he demands you dissolve into him. When a man builds a religion around his own face, you better believe the mirror's cracked. The makings of a cult leader. Gary Olson was born in 1948 and began his spiritual journey through the teachings of Eckankar, a movement founded by Paul Twitchell in 1965 that emphasized soul travel and direct experiences with divine light and sound. Olson became deeply involved with Eckankar during the 70s and 80s, studying under its leaders and absorbing its esoteric. It was a continuation of ancient teachings. Critics argued it was a rebranded offshoot of himself, Living Master, and began publishing Soul's Divine Journey, positioning himself as the sole conduit to spiritual liberation. And if you remember correctly, when I was just recently telling you about Mr. Gross and Harold Klemp and what happened when Harold Klemp became Living Eckmaster, remember I told you there was a copyright court case that they went through? Well, due to that copyright court case that Darwin Gross and Paul Twitchell's favorite dude, Harold Klemp, went through, basically Eckankar gained copyright to several of the terms that it created for its cult and several of the work within its cult. And Darwin Gross got to keep the copyright to some of the work that he had, you know. But because of those copyright suits that happened, the stuff was all protected under copyright. Therefore, when Gary Olson wrote Soul's Divine Journey, MasterPath, the Light and Sound Teachings, he had to be very, very careful about the words that he used. So he really wanted to call it like the Living Eckmaster and also used Eck, but he wasn't allowed to. So instead he took away Eck and just called it Living Master. He like made real time, you know? Great fun. Of course. Of course. So MasterPath promised seekers direct access to higher realms, but only through total devotion to Olson. His teachings emphasized chanting sacred syllables, meditating on his image, and surrendering personal will to the master. What began as a spiritual path quickly morphed into a personality cult with Olson at its center. Red flags and allegations. From the very beginning, MasterPath carried the DNA of Eckankar, But under Gary Olson's leadership, the teachings took a sharper, more authoritarian turn. What started as a rebranded spiritual practice evolved into a tightly controlled ecosystem, with Olson positioned not just as a teacher, but as the irreplaceable linchpin of every student's salvation. Former members recount a slow, almost imperceptible tightening of control, isolation, encouraging followers to cut ties with unenlightened friends and family, image worship, mandating meditation on Olson's photograph as a means of aligning with the living master. Fear of departure, reinforcing the belief that leaving the path invites spiritual ruin or karmic disaster. They love karma. Borrowed teachings, large sections of MasterPath doctrine mirror Eckankar founder Paul Twitchell's work, stripped of attribution and woven into Olson's self-serving narrative. The effect is cumulative. At first, Chelas, that's what they call students, feel elevated by the promise of higher planes and direct divine connection. But over time, that vision narrows until all roads and all perceived spiritual safety lead exclusively back to Gary Olson. Spiritual bypassing and ego worship. On the surface, MasterPath dresses itself in the language of self-realization and divine truth. Followers are taught that by focusing on the living master and chanting sacred syllables, they can bypass lifetimes of spiritual struggle. But in practice, this shortcut isn't about liberating the soul, it's about fastening it to Gary Olson's persona. Olson's writings blur the line between God and the master until the two are virtually interchangeable. This spiritual sleight of hand turns devotion into dependency, and questioning him becomes a sign of ignorance or ego. He's also in the book the whole time, our religion is the true religion. All these other religions really suck. He insults Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, every single religion you can think of at some point. Get some shade from Gary Olson in this goddamn book. It's ridiculous. The paradox in urging his cellos to dissolve their egos, Olson's system builds a momentum to his own. The concept of inner work is weaponized. Struggles, doubts, or negative experiences are reframed as spiritual shortcomings in the follower, never flaws in the master or the teaching. By keeping the onus on the disciple, Olson sidesteps accountability while basking in unquestioned reverence. It's not enlightenment they're chasing, it's a carefully engineered orbit around a single man's image. In Soul's divine journey, Olson repeatedly frames MasterPath as the pinnacle of all spiritual traditions, casting its doctrines as not just different, but inherently superior to anything that came before. Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Islam. No path escapes his gentle but unmistakable condensation. Through grand comparisons and sweeping statements, he positions MasterPath as the final revelation, implying that other religions are partial truths at best, misguided detours at worst. He even says at one point that you may join other religions in your life, but then you're supposed to exhaust yourself of that. You're supposed to exhaust yourself of getting joy from your family and your friends. Those are all just menial things. What you really are supposed to get joy out of is being in MasterPath and worshiping Gary. It's insanity. Sanity. Seriously. This constant elevation of his own teaching serves to reinforce this central narrative. True enlightenment is impossible without the living master. And in this era, that master just happens to be Gary Olson. The best example of this is on page 44, where Olson states, This is why the teachings of conventional religion, as well as the intelligence of humankind, have no concept or workable insight into this cosmological powerhouse of pure, unadulterated spirituality. The verdict. In the end, MasterPath isn't a staircase to heaven. It's a hall of mirrors, each one reflecting Gary Olson's own self-image until there's no room left for yours. The chants, the meditations, the lofty spiritual claims, they all funnel into a single point of worship. And it isn't God. It's the man who crowned himself the final word in spiritual evolution. Karma doesn't need your permission to settle its accounts. And for leaders who build their kingdoms on borrowed truths and blind devotion, the bill always comes due. Paid in credibility, community, and the very soul they claim to serve. That's a good one. You know, I like that one. Misleading people and taking their money through lying and gaslighting and manipulation. That's right. If it's not illegal, it should be. Yeah. Well, the problem with a lot of these is that they're all protected under the religion rules. So you're not allowed to judge religions. Religions have a special protection, which is why many of them become religions, honestly, to gain that and be able to take advantage of people legally. Same with how people make MLMs to take advantage of people legally with business. Same sort of thing. Let's go through some more of this book. Page 15. It must be emphasized that only a true master of light and sound can teach the method of merging the soul into the sound current. For no minister, priest, or pseudo-guru of light is qualified to do so. Good old Gary Olson. Page 32. Without this tandem of divine intervention, as well as the Creator's resurrecting power of truth and love, the individual soul is utterly helpless and risks forever being lost at sea. In other words, if you don't join his cult, you're just a lost soul. You know? Seriously, it is mental illness. It is. Theft by false pretense is actually a crime. I had to look it up. Though Google says not if one believes the false pretense. I have no idea how you prove that, right? Hello, Takara. Good to see you. If you sell someone a house that you do not own, that is illegal, right? You know, it takes forever for them to do anything about any of these religions. I mean, look at Scientology going strong, you know, they take up a whole block, you know, it's awful. Here's an example where Gary Olson, again, says that it's all about you. So the whole book is like trying to convince you that this is all about you and like an inner path. You get what I'm saying? But then for some reason you really need him in order to teach you how to do it. And you have to also like look to him. It's very strange. But here on page 63, he says, you are the way, you are the truth, and you are the life. You know? Oh my God, is this one of Bob Larson's cults? No, this is right now we're talking about MasterPath, Gary Olson. But religions have to follow the law too. You would think so. Page 73 was a doozy. So again, he says, if it takes a lifetime to find a true master, the arduous search has not been in vain. For one's cup must be emptied in order to understand its fulfillment. Then, a bit down the page, he also says, Thus, to all of you wandering seekers, wander no more, for the Camino Real, leading directly to your soul and your Creator, is indelibly etched within you, just awaiting your recognition. And like the whole thing is that you continuously get reincarnated in new lives until you eventually find Gary Olson and MasterPath as your religion. Then once you find it, your goal is to then become a master within it so that you can teach it to other people and worship Gary Olson. And you have to work up different levels as you work through the different planes, very much like Eckankar. Well, you're basically doing very similar exercises that you would do in Eckankar, such as just chanting, yoga, meditation, that kind of thing. Page 77. When you really want the higher meaning of life, you can have it. And that is what the Master Path is all about. So you live life, according to Gary, you go to school, get a job you enjoy, after maybe an education, you marry, you have some kids, but then you're going to get real bored of that because that's boring stuff. That's human stuff, right? And you're soul, so you're God. But he's God. But you're God. And Sigmund is God. But you're God. God's within you. So eventually you're going to get bored of all these things. And then you're going to go seeking. And you might find other religions and spiritualities along the way. But like your family and your life, you're going to also get bored of that. When you finally all of those things is when you find of being a monk. Like, fuck, it's boring, Like, that's how he views life. And then you find this cult, this religion, and this is the true religion of all religions. Now, like Eckankar, you can be any religion while you're in this religion, as long as you can read this Soul's Divine Journey book like I'm trying to without screaming at it. Half the book is him just trying to convince you that his religion is better than all the other religions. And you're like, okay, stop. How many times do you have to say it? But it gives examples of it. Like he talks about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And then he talks about how it allegedly actually was because of how his religion says it is, which is this, which he made up. And then talks about how superior that belief is over the Christian version, which I believe that they wrote it. So I was a little bit like, so the Catholics and the Christians don't know the story of Jesus in the westernized Bible. That's bizarre. But Gary does. But while he's telling you it, he's also like insulting them. And you're just like, okay, but technically don't you have the same belief system in a lot of ways? And then there's even a point in the question and answer section where he's like, yes, we are technically Christians. And you're like, well, then what the fuck, Gary? Like, it's just, the whole book is a mind fuck, I tell you. A mind fuck, especially if you're reading it through a lens of one of you guys that just knows better. You're just going to be like, what is this? So, or reincarnated 500 times, done every single religion, gotten bored. Then you find Gary. Gary's Dumb and Dumber, but it's just one guy. You find Gary and he gives you all the answers. And this, of course, fixes your entire life for you. When one's energy is centered and held within the third eye, the individual displays a much more spiritualized, universal will. And Gary says this on page 95 after talking for about 20 pages before that about how this journey is individual. It has nothing to do with any kind of universal anything. And he hates free. But to gain followers, dodge taxes, and build a personality cult. They all love that praise. It also makes me wonder about totalitarian ego. To me, these spiritual movements have the makings of a cult of personality, and they've been used as such over and over and over again. And these are the stolen religion. The stolen religions of Eckankar, MasterPath, of Adam Radhaswamy, and St. Matt. And so to end this, let me end this. Hello? Please work. There we go. I think it's working. It's been going on for centuries. Yes, well, these religions started in the 16th and 17th century. By the 18th century, they were already having people taking them and using them for kind of culty things. And then in the 20th century, they came to America and Europe and Canada, all over, really, over here, and started to really fuck with everybody. Woohoo! And they're still being used. Right now there are several cults starting even on just TikTok that are talking about astral projection and going from plane to plane, out-of-body experiences, and etc. Well, they're pulling off of all these ones, But to end this, I thought that it would be fun if we watched some good old Gary Olson. Yeah, Gary Olson. MasterPath, Sri Gary Olson, recognizing a true master. And we can hear from the man himself, because he's still going strong, which reminds me, it is August 27th, 2025 today. And on October 25th, 2025, Harold Klemp is going to be announcing the new living Eckmaster, who will take over for him. And we will be on our our fourth living Eckmaster. Because Paul Twitchell was the first one, all right? It was Paul Twitchell, Darwin Gross, Harold Klemp, okay? And now whoever he chooses in October. Just based off of sci-fi with Scientology anyway. Praise Dino. Anyway, Gary is again your uncle's workout in his religion, get to talk. I mean, to be true, then you teach other people how to do it, and that's apparently what the point of life is.
A true master is much more practical and contemporary than you would ever think. You know, it's really funny in our imagination and how we've been conditioned and the impressions we've received through the teachings we've affiliated ourselves with. One comes to have an image of what a master is. You know, they got these like long hair and sometimes like a beard. And we got
What are you messing up on me for? Stop that. Stop that right now. Don't do that.
and you're never going to hear like a swear word or any cursing or vulgarity. There's going to be no talk about drugs, drink, sex, stuff like this. They think sometimes that these God men sit in an ascetic position or a lotus or semi-lotus and chant all day long, denying themselves all the pleasures of life and all of this.
See how like bitter he is about other gurus and stuff? So weird.
No, none of those are true at all. A true master is so down to earth, is so practical, so loving. You'll find a true master in order to be even competent to teach people and understand the problems of the time and the age. They've had to go through them oneself. They know all about the hang-ups and the problems that can assail one.
Oh, yeah?
They've been in poverty, and sometimes they've had money. There's a lesson to learn in both. They've been lonely, of course, for divine company, and they've been very, very happy. They've had their own karmas that they've had to go through, and they have a lot of blessings, no doubt.
Again, just like Scientology, they believe that everything you go through is because of something that you did in a past life. You know, it's your karma. So, like, if something bad happens to you in this life, then it's karma from another life. Right?
Karmas that a master comes through is very interesting because in order to be a Sat Guru, you have to be commissioned from the Lord of the highest region, and one's actually on an assignment, on a divine mission. And you have to be up in this region to get it. So a soul that comes down and becomes the Sat Guru has already unfolded their consciousness and already.
And as you can see, physical, astral, casual, mental, very, very similar to Eckankar. It's basically like they took half of Eckankar's and then half of Ramaswamy's. I wrote it down here. I have it. So they call theirs the ocean of all consciousness. And it remember Eckankar's is called Ocean of Love and Mercy. So that's kind of basically one of the gods that they sort of all written down here. All right. Those ones are all stolen from Radhaswami Saint Matt. Okay. And then Satlock, Alak Lock, Agam Lock, and Anami Lock are actually all stolen from the Satlock, and also stolen from the Eckankar as well. And they're also kind of loosely Radhaswami, but they're different in the sense that the order that they're in. And but yeah, other than that, the Satlock is your God realization. And you get self-realization at Daswan Dwar, which is very Radhaswami. Now in Eckankars, they do the higher worlds, lower world thing, and that's also kind of stolen by MasterPath. But for them, it's like just the top 4. Worlds. Basically, MasterPath all consciousness. Very much the same. Very, very, very similar. Kind of annoying. Kind of annoying. I don't know. I should be back. No, my thing messed up on me. I don't know what happened. It all went dead for a second. Said my internet was being weird, which it's been doing this whole time for some reason. So yeah, as you can see, he's showing the physical, astral, casual, mental, Daswan Dwar, right? So you have to move up these levels, basically. That's what these planes are. They're the levels that you have to move up. And as you move up, you of course have to pay for more courses. Now, the funny thing is that when I got this book, I got this amazing pamphlet with it, an amazing pamphlet that tells me all about it. And tells me also the differences between the exoteric approach and the esoteric approach, which is interesting. But then I also got this order form here. Okay. And I got gifted for first-time seekers to a seminar on September 27th with Gary. And I can go to that one at 4:30 p.m. for free. But then later on that night at 7 p.m. and the next day at 8:30 a.m., making it a whole weekend, there's 2 more seminars. Gary wants me to pay first, and then there's a $30 fee to actually join Oh my, what is going on? All right. The powers that be are trying to stop me from speaking out against Gary Olson. I don't know why it's not working. It's completely Streamlab related. Everything else is
It's not
fine.
their karma that pulls them down. You have to come in to resurrect their
Parents that can't take care of her. So CAS has to come take her away because that will be a great start to life. I don't like this belief system of, God picked everything for us.
indoctrinate them, or whatever impressions and tendencies will be received by the parents in those formative years when we're a youth and we don't know what's going on. And the masters, therefore, go through the same things that you do so they can more adequately teach
Okay.
the great truth to souls who have similar problems.
That's really all. That's really all. So you can see there's a whole bunch of them. Whole bunch of them.
Loved ones, MasterPath, it's simply the most profound and highest teaching that you will ever discover on this planet.
That's right. And he fully believes that. He says it in the book many times. Many times. So I'm going to end this because I don't have much more to say. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little intro on that, and a little intro is into who Gary Olson is and all about him. I'm going to continue to try to read through the last 38 pages of this, which is basically just Gary kissing his own ass the whole time. It's very difficult to get through. But I promise I will get through it by next week for sure. It's so funny because I found the belief system part of this so interesting. It was like 80 some odd pages. And I read all those in like a day and a half, and took all my notes. Everything was great. But then I got to the question answer part and it was like, oh Lord, what is this? So I feel like I'm reading Ash Mufara doing question answer with himself in a book. It's very frustrating. You can get this book for free online, or you can even get it ordered free to your house, but maybe you don't want to let the cult know where you live. I understand that. You can get it free online. You just go to masterpath.org. That is their website, and they have it too. If you feel like, actually reading it like I have, and if you are going to talk about me doing AI, what you can at least do is also read the book and then show me what I'm wrong about, apparently. But this thing is driving me nuts. And I think that we do need to dive into Gary Olson. He's very fascinating cult leader. And the thing is just like Eckankar, his is also still going strong. There's a following for it. They have a YouTube channel. So, and I looked and there's not many people talking about this one, but it looks like quite a lot of fun. So next week sometime, I thought we would get together, go through some of his videos. Also this week, I would like to go through some Eckankar ads and stuff. And we have some on-passive stuff to go through that I find quite funny, which we might jump into tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. I hope that all of you have a fabulous, amazing evening. Thank you. With me, even though I was having some internet issues. I don't usually have internet issues, so it's weird when I have internet issues. What's going on? But it seemed to be StreamYard and not my internet. Everything else that wasn't working. So, that sucks, but can't really do anything about that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous, fabulous rest of your night.
Queen of Karma.